Hi guys. So I've read you from beginning to chapter 1. This is now chapter 2 of my book, A Magical Kiss. Grandma was right, Eve exclaimed. She is with me and I am a fairy. Eve noticed that time was still stopped. Nothing was moving. The flying fish were still paused in mid-air in complete silence. It was as if the forest was waiting and waiting for something wonderful. Excitement grew within her as she was smiling and still feeding the mushrooms. Yippee! Eve jumped, her wings beating. She flew off through the forest, dodging trees left and right and up and down. I love being a fairy. She dodged the motionless insects and the fish as she swooped around them. Then she landed with a thump. Over and over she toppled, coming finally to a stop next to the largest blue mushroom. Why am I here? She asked herself in a giggly sort of voice. For some reason I want to kiss you, Eve said to the smallest red mushroom. She leaned over and kissed the mushroom quickly. The mushroom started to bulge from within. Something was pushing up, trying to escape. The top of the mushroom was now stretching to a point. Eve took a step backwards as the mushroom continued to swell, and lumps and bumps began to appear on it, pointing in different directions. Surely it can't stretch any more, she said. Pop! Eve fell back on her bottom. The mushroom now deflated, leaving something visible under the skin. Snow started to fall, spreading all over the forest floor. The trees turned white and their leaves gathered the snow. An ivory needle had punctured the skin of the mushroom and pushed its way through. The needle grew thicker and longer. Now it was the length of a small spear. Then the mushroom skin opened wider and Eve could see big, bright blue eyes looking straight at her. She took off in flight, heading for the highest point on the nearest tree. She perched herself down and watched intently. Eve noticed time suddenly started again. The flying fish started leaping in and out of the river again, and the glowing insects started dodging about again. The noises of the forest returned. Eve turned her eyes back to the mushroom. She could now see a long nose pushing its way through the skin, and before long she also saw shoulders, legs, wings and a tail. The most beautiful creature she'd ever laid her eyes on, whiter than the snow itself. Why, it's a horse, is it not? The creature heard Eve and looked up, turning its eyes on her. Eve quickly pulled a branch full of leaves over her. The wind picked up and Eve swayed from side to side. She held tightly onto the tree. If I'm a horse, you're not a guardian fairy. Hey, who said that? Said Eve. Me. Eve popped her head out from behind the leaves. You're flying, shouted Eve. Yes, tell me, can horses fly? No, replied Eve, they can't talk neither. I guess you're not a horse then. So what are you? Asked Eve. I'm a unipeg. A unipeg? Yes, how many more times? Snapped the unipeg. So what is your name then, guardian fairy? I'm not a guardian fairy. Where did you get that silly idea from? The unipeg looked baffled. I haven't time to play about with you. Come on, we have so much to do in so little time. Where are we going? Asked Eve. The unipeg flew off through the forest. To save Eden, he shouted, whilst looking back at Eve. Hold on, shouted Eve. No time. Quickly now. Eve took to flight, her wings humming. She caught up with the unipeg. So what are we looking for? Asked Eve. A mound of dirt, said the unipeg. Dirt? Yes, dirt. Why? Asked Eve. The dirt has held a secret for more than 1 billion years. It's about time it was revealed once more, explained the unipeg. Does anyone know of this secret? Yes, me and you, replied the unipeg. The unipeg dived, wings tucked in. He was going at such a speed. He was heading straight for the ground. He spread his wings and landed like a feather. Interesting, said Eve. She tucked her wings in head first and dived faster and faster. The unipeg looked up at her, his head following her as she hurtled down. Oh dear, he said. Thump! A cloud of dust formed and then faded away. Eve got up embarrassed, brushing herself off. Ouch! Why are we here, unipeg? Please call me Peg. I hate long names. And what should I call you, my guardian fairy? Why, Peg, please call me Eve. That's my real name, Eve replied. Then she asked again, why are we here, Peg? Look in front of you. Eve turned her head and faced forward. There was a mound of dirt in the forest clearing just ahead of them. A large stone circle surrounded the mound of dirt. Glowing insects danced round the mound. Peg stepped out of the forest into the clearing, walking slowly and proudly, chest out and head high. Come, Eve, you are about to see a wonderful weapon forged in the fountain of the elves, metal but yet living. A gift to man, said Peg. Peg approached the mound and started to dig at the dirt, his right front hoof slowly and delicately moving the soil. Soon the side of the mound crumbled away to reveal a large grey marble stone, but a mound of dirt remained on the top of the marble stone. Peg opened his wings and reared on his hind legs, and with an almighty swoop of his wings he blew the dirt off the top of the marble rock. Peg lowered himself back on all 4 feet and closed his wings, then turned to Eve. "Come forward." Eve moved closer. To her amazement, there was a sword sticking out of the top of the stone, its handle downwards and its blade partly buried in the stone. "I've heard of stories about this sword," said Eve. "Your stories are of old, passed down from man, from Eden to earth. Some true, some not. One thing I can tell you is that this sword is special to our kingdoms of Eden. One day the boy will return, sent by the Lord to restore fruits to the kingdoms of Eden." Eve noticed the name Excalibur engraved down the centre of the blade, and across the guard the word Rex. She put 2 and 2 together. Boy King. The trees around the forest clearing were very tall. The sword and the marble stone were now in shadow. The sun was slowly reaching its highest point in the sky. The sun now peeped over the trees, sending dazzling beam of light to the blade of the sword. Eve saw an image of a lady surrounded by water within the blade. She was veiled in white, and Eve could hear the sound of her heart beating aloud. The lady's ghostly voice cried out from within the sword, "I am Nimue, the lady of the lake. Where is the boy king? Where is the boy king?" Peg looked at Eve. "Something is wrong. Our king was to be here at the first light of the longest day. That day is today, and the sun is now risen to its highest point in the sky." The lady called out again from within Excalibur to Eve, "Where is the boy king?" Eve looked at Peg. "I don't know of any boy king," she replied to Nimue. The lady in the sword cried out once more, "The boy king must be found, or Eden will not bear fruit. The fairy will grow old and wither. The magic will fade, and she will no longer be the guardian of Eden." Eve looked at Peg. "Am I the guardian?" Peg now realised that Eve did not understand her importance on Eden. "Yes, you are the guardian. But we must find the boy, for it is foretold the sword must be pulled from its eternal hold. We only have to the end of day, for eternity is just round the corner once more." "How are we going to find the boy?" asked Eve. "We don't find, we ask." Eve frowned and said, "And who do we ask then, Peg?" Peg frowned back. "Why, the Owl of Great Wisdom. He can be found within the largest and oldest tree of the enchanted forest. Come, we must go, and go to Oakley." Peg flew into the trees. Eve quickly followed. Trees flashed by, 1,000, hundreds of thousands. Peg's wings tucked in and out as fast as he weaved in and out of the trees. "Up here!" Peg shot up into the tree tops. Eve followed. She looked up at the giant tree, almost the width and the height of a mountain. Peg looked back. "Here!" he shouted. He flew through a large hole in the tree trunk. Eve could only describe the entrance as a cave. It was pitch black. The smell of damp wood hit her senses as soon as she entered. Eve's wings glowed, quickly lighting the way. Peg tucked his wings tight, and then down he went, deeper and deeper into the tree's trunk, his body disappearing into the darkness. Eve followed quickly, catching up as his white body came back into sight. She could see the floor. Peg spread his wings, coming softly to land, and Eve also landed like a feather. Eve looked at Peg. "This place is eerie. I think we should go." Eve had a feeling of being watched from all directions, her privacy invaded, as if she was being scrutinised. The yellows of pairs of eyes appeared to the left of Eve's shoulder, catching her eye. "Look, Peg, eyes are staring at me. Look up there. Some more eyes. There, and over there." Eve and Peg could not keep their heads still as the eyes lit up from all around. The eyes were not even blinking. Their pupils were wide open, continuously staring. Peg shouted out to the eyes, "We seek the wisdom of the great wise Owl of Oakley." The eyes began to blink and look at one another as if in conversation. The hundreds of eyes stopped blinking and set their stare back on Eve and Peg. But this time the eyes began moving closer and closer, getting bigger. Peg and Eve moved closer, lowering their bodies as the eyes closed in. Then the eyes stopped approaching and started to withdraw. A shuffling sound could now be heard from within the darkness, moving forward to Peg and Eve. A pair of giant claws appeared in the darkness. Eve looked up at the giant owl the size of a 3-story house, light grey and gold, lit up by the glow of Eve's wings. The giant owl looked down at them, its piercing stare not blinking. There was no movement of its beak as it spoke. Who seeks the wisdom of the great wise owl of Oakley? The owl's voice echoed through the trunk of the giant trees. We do, replied Peg. Come forth and ask. Do not be afraid, said the giant owl. Peg and Eve moved closer to the massive talons and the huge fluffy white feet of the owl, with the thousands of eyes still peering out of the darkness. The giant owl, its eyes transfixed, carrying on with its intense stare. Eve looked up, raising her arms. Please give us your wisdom. If I give you my wisdom, you would have no need to be here, for you would hold the wisdom and be able to answer the question whose answer you seek. Peg looked at Eve with frustration. Well, that worked. You try, Gigi. Gigi, said Peg under his breath. I'll give her Gigi. Move over, fairy. Let me try. Peg nudged Eve to one side with his wing. O great wise owl of Oakley, we seek your wisdom. Where will we find the boy king? The voices of the thousands of pairs of eyes started talking amongst themselves, louder and louder as if in discussion, working together to come to an answer. The voices were now talking so fast the words were intermingling, then sudden silence. The great wise owl of Oakley blinked, then blinked again. Its head began to turn in a full rotation, then it began to speak. Eve, you must go back to the place you came from. A single kiss, but choose wisely, for evil lurks within. You must clear your mind. You should feel no bitterness or anger. Then follow your heart. The wise owl's head then rotated to Peg. Tell the ivory dragon his time will come. Our paths will cross during a battle. He will lay here to secure his kind. The blackness then submerged the great wise owl of Oakley as he disappeared back into the depths of the giant tree. Eve started to think. She couldn't understand the owl's answer. Peg looked surprised with himself. I've got the answer. The mushrooms. Eve smiled, taking flight first. They both headed for the light still coming through the entrance of the hole. Peg looked to the sun. The sun is starting to descend. Follow me, Eve. I know a faster way. Peg swung to his left and took the lead. Eve followed. The forest ended. Sand, sea and mountains glittered, multitude of colours. There was creatures of all types, mermaids, jewel-like seahorses as large as Peg, dolphin-like creatures with spears coming from the centre of their heads, giant sea serpents cruising the shallows. Look, Eve, you created all of this, said Peg. They began to fly over the mountains, waterfalls of pink, yellow and green water cascading into the glittering rivers below. Giant creatures of different shapes were roaming the lands. Eve could not believe what she could see with her own eyes. Everything was so beautiful, everything was so at peace. Down Peg went, flying over the treetops. Giant golden and red bronze feathered birds were flying in and out of the canopies of the enchanted forest. Down Peg went once more, Eve following into the forest. Even more birds of wonder rose up as they passed, in captivating colours, singing in perfect harmony. Insects of all shapes were humming and glowing, as if singing alongside with the birds. We're here, said Peg. Chapter 3, From Dragon's Mouth.